Hello and welcome to Esther's Gardening Adventures. I'm Esther and today I'm going to talk about saving seeds from one of my favorite flowers in the garden. If you've been watching, you already know what flower that is. Of course, you probably know from the title of the video as well, but it is coxcomb or celosia, which I used to pronounce celosia because I didn't actually look up the pronunciation. They're one of my favorite flowers for several reasons. First of all, I just love the unique look of them. They come in several different varieties or forms. One is in which they form a comb for their plume that kind of looks like this, right? Velvety brains, but also they're called coxcomb, so it's probably related to the origin of kind of looking like the comb on top of a rooster's head. Then there's also the types that have sort of a feathery plume, and those are usually called, well, plume or plumosia a lot of time, as in you can see here, plumosia. This is one I got for 89 cents at the store. This was a impulse buy, as often happens with those of us who love to grow things from seed. And I'm going to take you outside and show you in a little bit how I save seeds from them, but I want to tell you a little bit more about this amazing flower. It is quite hardy. Once it gets going, as long as you keep it relatively well watered, it just does pretty well. These flowers look good almost all the time. They start around midsummer and they keep going basically until the first frost when they're killed off. Now, celosia are actually perennial. They're annual in areas like mine, which is zone 7A in Maryland, but they're actually perennial in warmer zones, I believe zones 10 through 12, so way south of where I am. In my area, I have to replant them every year, and they're definitely not frost hardy. So you want to grow them, you can grow them using the winter sowing process, which you can check out my Winter Sowing 101 series talking about how to grow those seedlings using that process. Or you can grow them starting indoors, or you can plant them directly in the ground as well. But they also reseed quite readily on their own, and they're really not that hard to pull up if they're growing in a place you don't want. So you don't have to worry about them spreading aggressively to the extent that some plants, when they reseed, getting them on the ground is a real hassle. These flowers can vary in height from about 2 feet for the dwarf ones. I have a beautiful coral dwarf coxcomb that I grow that I just love having in my garden. But then the ones that we're going to be harvesting the flowers from first, the seeds from first today, they are probably my height. I'm 5'3", so they're 4 to 5 feet tall. Celosia or coxcomb are also part of the amaranth family. They are an ornamental and herbaceous annual, but if you think about how amaranths look, that kind of spiky plumes with the very tight small flowers, they look very much like coxcomb. And there's another variety that I have never grown, but it's also a wheat variety. And I think in some countries that's even one that's edible, although I don't believe the ones I grow in this area are ones that I would want to eat. I've seen hummingbirds visit it. It is constantly buzzing with bumblebees and wasps and hornets, but not aggressive ones. They're getting their drink on in there. They don't care about me. And it is just busy and happy. And so if you want a pollinator garden, this flower is meant for you, especially the plumosia ones. And celosia are also great for use as filler or an accent piece in your bouquets, your cut flowers. I'll show you a picture in just a second here of a bouquet of flowers I made for my mom for her birthday. The sunflowers in the picture I got from the store, but the rest came from my garden, and you can see the little plumes of celosia sticking out the top. In my last video that I did, which was on how to save zinnia flower seeds, I went into quite a bit of detail on different considerations you ought to have when you're deciding what plants and when to save the seeds from. And I highly recommend you check out that video if you want those tips. But a few quick basic ones is you want to save seeds from the most healthy plants, no disease or other issues, because that can be passed on through the seed. You want to save them at the right time when the seeds are ripe. And many times with flowers especially, they get to the stage where they're starting to fade, or the seeds are kind of exposed, as we'll see with the celosia flowers that we're going to go harvest from. All right, now let's get outside and I'll show you how we harvest the seeds. This is from 2 plants that I winter sowed and planted up. And you can see if you're watching close that there are bees all over it. Getting the seeds from coxcomb is pretty straightforward. If you look closely here, right here, you look close enough, you can see little black dots sticking out from the base of the flower there. See that? Basically, you can just come and put a plate or your hand or whatever you wish to put underneath it and just go like this. Look at that, just by rubbing it. And look, just from that little bit, I have a ton of seeds. There's probably what, 25 to 30 seeds there. Let me take you over. I don't actually plan on saving seeds this year for my king coral coxcomb because I recently bought a second packet of those seeds, but I can show you how you would harvest the seeds from them. All right, here I go, trying to get through without upsetting anybody. Okay, I don't see any bees close enough to be a problem. Excuse me. By the way, I apologize if you hear some music in the background. My neighbor is working on his car, and he's keeping the music at a low volume, but the microphone may still pick up some of it. All right, so with coxcomb, you need to look underneath, and right here, you need to look underneath the base of the flower. And this area that looks kind of like it's diseased is actually where the seeds are, right there. So again, you can take a paper plate or your hand or whatever you think makes the most sense and just rub it. Just release those seeds. Here, I'm holding it over the plate. In this case, hope you can still see what I'm doing. So there you go. There's the seeds from the king coral coxcomb. Well, now let's take a closer look at these seeds. So if you look close, they are black, and to the main eye, they look round. Up close, I think they're not quite perfectly round. They're maybe a little bit more like the shape of a bead where you'd have the hole through one side, right? But that is pretty much how they look. And to give you a comparison for size here, this is how big they are in the size of my hand. And also they can blow away easy. So if you do put it on a plate or paper towel, try not to do it on a windy day or else you may lose them. Okay, so now that we've identified them and we know that they're pretty safe, good to save, you don't really need to take time to have them dry. So you can just make your label and put them in the envelope or container you're gonna put them in. As I said in my video on saving zinnias, you can save your seeds in multiple places. You could save them in a glass jar, for example. You may want to, in that case, include, now this is just peppermint herbs, but you may in that case want to include some kind of moisture absorber. Okay, so I'm just marking that it's tall coxcomb so I remember which ones it came from. Harvested 2021, Esther's Garden, Maryland. Although I really don't need to put that, but if you're getting it from a different source or a different place, you probably need to put the location. Personally, I don't mind a few petals ending up in the envelope. So, whoops. Now, if you don't have something you can fold easy, you could use a sieve or some kind of cone. You could make one by shaping the plate better. Oh, I probably should turn it so you can see it easier. There we go. There we go. And this time you can see them at the bottom. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. If you aren't already a subscriber, please consider doing so. And otherwise, I'll see you next time.